Well, Brian, I guess I should probably call you Colonel
No, you should call me Brian.
because that's a pretty great title to have earned, Colonel.
Yeah, but something I definitely left behind when I retired from the Marine Corps. So, later in my career in the Marine Corps, getting promoted to colonel was an important goal of mine.
Yeah.
The colonels in the Marine Corps, there's about 600 in the Marine Corps. So, if you make it to that level, you actually get a little bit of influence, which is really what I was looking for because it could influence the lives of the Marines that were serving with me. So
yeah. And you were in the Marines, what, 26 years? Is that?
Yeah, just under 27 years.
Just under 27
Yep.
years. That's a long time. A lot of time putting on that uniform.
Yeah, I joined the Corps with the intent to serve for 4 years, and I tell everybody I came home 27 years later. It's just the Marine Corps did a great job offering me really interesting opportunities.
Yeah. Well, and you went in. Did you go in after college, right? So
I did.
So you graduated from Tech. So then, are you going as an officer right away?
Yeah. I applied to the Marine Corps late in my senior year in college. And this was pre 9/11, so it was hyper competitive. Took a long time. I hadn't been selected by the Marine Corps when I graduated from Tech, so I took a job and went down to Long Beach, California, working for Atlantic Richfield while I was waiting for the Marine Corps to give me a call. And then about 9 months into that job, I got the letter and quit the job and went to Officer Candidate School to become a second lieutenant. Yeah.
What made you want to serve the country like that?
Yeah, so
because you were set up good. You graduated from Tech.
Yeah,
you don't need to.
As I look back on it, I always admired soldiers and Marines. Grew up reading books about Marine recon in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Then when I was in college, a good buddy of mine from high school, Mark James, he joined the Marine Corps right after high school, and he served in the Gulf War, and that inspired me. I felt being in college, that was someplace I probably needed to be. And then, playing for Bob Green at Montana Tech was a big influence. Bob was a Marine radio operator in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Incredibly inspired by his leadership and, the story of his Marine Corps career. And the combination of those three things is really what ultimately made me decide to go. I had a good friend that told me, hey, you've been talking about this for a long time. You probably ought to do something about it. So I did. Yeah. And that was the plan. Through 4 years, come back, get a graduate degree from Tech, and never leave Montana again.
Yeah, and that's after playing football for Coach Green and playing football for Coach Mack, a couple of Butte legends.
Yep, absolutely. I was blessed.
Yeah.
I was blessed.
Yeah, I love Coach Mack. I had him on the podcast a while back, and I had him for an hour. And he said, Penny bet you wouldn't get 15 minutes out of me.
Last I saw him was a Silver Bees event a couple of years ago, so it was good seeing him again.
Yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah.
Still knows the game.
Yeah, he does.
Still love talking football with him.
I bet.
He's great. So did you grow up were you a hill kid or a flats kid?
I was an all-over kid. My first memory, we lived in, we called them the Greens, the apartments up just below the M that were company
we still
housing.
call them the Greens, but they're not green anymore.
They're not green anymore. Started there, I think, when I was in fourth grade. We moved down to the flats and lived on the flats till I was 14. Then my parents bought a house out at Terre Verde. We moved out there, so kind of went south from the beginning.
Your parents still out there?
No, my dad died in 2015. My mom tried real hard finding a place that she was comfortable in here after he died, and I suggested that she go look in Bozeman because I kind of figured that I was probably going to end up there when I retired from the Marine Corps. And she went over and found a house in like one day. So she lives in Bozeman now.
Yeah. So you must have went to Kennedy briefly.
I did. Yeah, I went to Kennedy through fourth grade.
I was a Kennedy kid.
Yeah.
Well, I was a Blaine kid until they closed Kennedy down. Then we went over to Kennedy.
Yeah, I got some great memories from Kennedy. So.
So Okie O'Connor was probably there then.
Yeah.
I missed him though. He was there like right before. I think maybe the year or two before I got there, he left.
Yeah, it was a great place to start life, for sure.
Yeah. What other school did you go to?
I went there, then I went to Madison, and Madison closed after a year, and then at Webster Garfield.
And then that closed.
And then that closed, but by then I was at West Junior High at the time.
Oh, you went up to West?
Yeah.
And then, so you were the class of 88 at Butte.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the class of 90 was the first class that went all 4 years at Butte High.
Yeah, I think so.
So I remember my cousin Jeff was just so disappointed that he never got to be a freshman at East.
Yeah.
Because that was the big deal back then. And then you go to be when you're a freshman at Butte High.
Oh, yeah.
You're the bottom,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're in the deep water.
Yeah. So you played football. Did you play other sports?
I did Taekwondo.
I saw you were a black belt.
Yeah, I did martial arts and football. I ran track, and my memory is, I can't confirm this, is that we had to. Football coach wanted everybody playing and running track, so I was a really bad pole vaulter.
Oh yeah, you did pole vaulter.
Yeah. So mostly football. Did martial arts all the way up and through college. Those are the main pursuits.
You weren't a good pole vaulter, huh?
I was a terrible pole vaulter, but we had fun doing it. So.
Yeah, that seems so dangerous. When I'd watch that, I'd take a lot. I took a lot of pictures of guys doing pole vault my years of Butte Sports.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it's great for photos.
Yeah,
and it's one of my favorite events to cover. But I'd kill myself.
I just never mastered the mechanics of it. I mean, I never got high at all. So
really, yeah. It's a tough one. It's funny to see some of the guys that sometimes it's just a little guy will do so well. Sometimes a tall guy. You never know who's going to.
My son's a track athlete for Montana State now, so I go to all the meets and just seeing the bars those guys are clearing is just amazing.
What does he do?
He's a sprinter, hurdler. So he runs 400, 4x4, and 400 hurdles.
Really?
So he didn't get it from me. So
what's his name?
Tyler.
Yeah. And did he go to high school around here?
Yeah, we ended up in Bozeman when he was a junior. So he started at Gallatin High. So he was the first class at Gallatin High. So he was essentially the senior class for 2 years, which was a pretty good deal for him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking up the other night. I was the 86 and 87 Butte High, Butte Central football games. Mm-hmm. And 86 was 42-0, and I think 87 was like 29-6.
Yeah.
Something like that. Did you start in both those games?
No, I started the 87 game. I started a couple times the 86 season.
It was hard to be a 2-year starter at Butte High.
Yeah, we had I started 2 games as a junior. Eventually got pulled out because the next guy in the lineup was Dean Gransbury, and he was better than me. So
he's still probably a stud.
Yeah, he was. We had a blast playing defensive end together.
Yeah,
so.
He's another military guy too.
Yeah. Well, I think his older brother Craig is.
Oh, Craig's a military guy.
Yep,
Dean wasn't a military guy.
Yeah.
Dean's he's not. He's a teacher up there now.
Yeah, he's a stud.
But all those Gransburys were so tough, except for Corey. I'm not afraid of Corey. He's one of my buddies. But
I got pulled in. I got pulled in as a starter because I was a little bit bigger than Dean. But like I said, he eventually made it in the game because he was just a better player than me.
Yeah, and then when you were senior, he started one side and you started the other, right?
Yeah.
And then you had a guy named Lemke running behind you.
Just incredible.
Things up.
Incredible. Leon Ostrowski at nose guard. I mean, just Rob Lee at tackle. We had a great team.
Yeah, that was just stacked and just and did Lemke, he played a little bit of offense sometimes too, didn't he?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah, because there wasn't very many guys that would play both ways.
Yeah.
Butte High in the 80s.
Yeah.
But I remember I watched those games. Of course, I was a Central. I was a Kennedy kid when you guys played Central, but I was told by my parents at a young age I was going to be a Butte Central Maroon.
Yeah.
And so I was cheering for the Maroons in that game, and it didn't last very long. That I was that I was too into the game because it was a pretty big blowout. But
I was blessed to be friends with a lot of guys that went to Central. So it was fun.
Yeah, and there's which Paffhausen was it? Was it Mark Paffhausen? Todd.
Yeah.
Because they were. I always confuse their careers a little bit. But they're such great athletes.
Yeah, another incredible athletic family for sure.
Yeah.
So.
And you guys, and that's the championship game, and that's still you still think about that.
Yeah, I mean, when people bring it up, you brought it up before we started recording. Yeah, I think about it. I mean, it was a tough loss. So.
Yeah, and those are the games. Of course, we had 2019. Butte High had the great team. They went undefeated, and then Bozeman just had the best offensive line I think I've ever seen in high school football. In Montana high school football anyway.
Yeah.
And they just they beat us in the championship game. But still, those Friday nights when Butte High's good.
Oh yeah, high school football made high school what it was for me. I mean, it was just an incredible experience.
Yeah, and being a martial artist and being a defensive lineman, that's probably an advantage, just knowing how to use your hands and.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never really connected the two.
Really?
Not really. But, both require some athleticism. I was an average athlete, let's be honest. So, but, good enough to start that year, and I felt blessed because of it. So,
yeah. Where'd you learn martial arts at?
It was Toshi Khan Martial Arts Academy. So I don't think it's still operating here in Butte, but it was based out of Great Falls. They had a club here. I saw a demonstration at Kennedy, of all places, when I was going to school there, and talked to my parents about starting because it was something that really interested me. And so I started at 7 years old. Had some great instructors, earned my black belt by 14, and like I said, I continued up through college. So
yeah, you still pretty versed in it, didn't you?
No, not really. You know, I've thought a lot about getting back into a martial arts practice again. I did a lot of martial arts in the Marine Corps. Went away from karate more towards jiu-jitsu and grappling. So if I had the time and, my shoulders weren't as bad as they were, I'd probably pick up Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So
well, the discipline that teaches you.
It did. It instilled a lot of discipline for sure.
It's kind of set you up for life. Like my kids, my oldest daughter and my son, they went with Master Jim Miller for Taekwondo.
Yep.
And
I remember Jim.
And he was such a great guy. And I was so happy. They didn't stick with it. I think my daughter got a green belt and my son had a yellow belt, maybe with a green stripe.
Yeah.
And they were pretty excited about that. But then they kind of drifted apart on that. But just to have Master Miller influence their life a little bit was pretty cool.
I was blessed with an instructor that recognized some qualities in me and kind of took me under his wing. His name was Mick Jacobson. He was a Golden Gloves boxer, young kid. He was in his 20s when he was running the club.
Oh, really?
I was still in high school. He took me under his wing and really, mentored me a lot, and I made big gains from there. And it's a unique story because it turns out that Mick was also dealing drugs.
No kidding.
Mick ultimately ended up in prison. And I searched the internet for him a couple of years ago, and he's been in and out of prison a couple times since then. But despite that, I give Mick a lot of credit for the person that I am, because he instilled a lot of discipline in me, taught me to understand the value of hard work, and really helped me recognize my capability.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad but a story that I continue to tell. So
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I showed up to go to class one day and Mick wasn't there, and nobody would tell me where he was. Well, he'd been arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and by then I was 16, and Master Umamoto, who was in Great Falls, asked me if I'd take over the club. And I was 16.
16, take over the club. Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So, the club kind of went downhill from there. So,
yeah. That's such an interesting story, though. That'd be tough to wrap your head around as a kid. Like a mentor like that gets arrested for dealing drugs.
Yeah, you just go down. But I think he had a lot of great aspects of his character. That was just one thing that ended up getting him. So
yeah, it can get a lot of people. It gets a lot of people. It can probably get anybody.
Yep. Yeah, if you go down that path, for sure.
Yeah, that's a tough path. But, so then after high school, of course, when you were in high school, they hired a Marine.
Yep.
To coach at Montana Tech, a loud Marine. Yep. Very least, still loud.
Yeah.
He's not. I don't think he's quite as loud, or maybe my hearing's more down.
He's still loud.
He's still pretty loud.
Yep.
But so did any other place recruit you? You went to play for Montana Tech.
Yeah, the Air Force Academy was talking to me. I didn't really want to go to the Air Force Academy. Serving in the military wasn't in my vision at that time. Yeah. And I remember early into the summer after I graduated, getting a call from Coach Green and asking me to come walk on, and that's really what I was going to Tech at that point already. So having the opportunity to walk on his team was a great opportunity. I jumped on it. So yeah.
Was there a point when the lines started getting old?
I found college football a lot different than high school football.
Yeah.
It was a lot like a job.
Yeah. But Coach Green's lines. Was there a time? Like Matt Vincent told me the first year he had Coach Green, he thought, this is the funniest guy ever. Second year, he's like, yeah, he's pretty funny.
I never got tired of it. I never got tired.
I never get tired.
I still get on YouTube and look at it from time to time. So
yeah. Well, the best line he ever gave though was one, because I sat across from him for years. I covered his team for over a decade. Where we, so and he would. When you interviewed Coach Green, it was like a boss talking to a secretary. He'd wait till your pen stopped moving, and then he'd start talking again. Yeah. And whenever he came up with a good line off the top of his head, he'd kind of look at you and wink and point at you. Mm-hmm. But he had the ones he was ready to use on you.
Yeah.
But I've heard so many of them. But the time when his players, late in his career, his players were trying to line up. He was trying to teach them some kind of a conditioning thing, and they didn't line up right. And he says, "Man, it's a good thing you guys weren't with me in '69. I wouldn't be here."
Yeah, I was like we're like a woodpecker in a petrified forest. Keep them busy. Yeah. So like I said, I get on YouTube and look at him from time to time.
Yeah, but he was, of course, he's a great football mind, but a great leader for of young men. I felt I felt really lucky I was quite a bit younger than him. Obviously, I'm at the standard, and it was almost like I was a player for him, because even though I didn't play, but he was almost like just such a great positive figure in my life,
Yeah, he was just a leader. And like I said, I give him a ton of credit for me joining the Marine Corps because I'll be honest, I wanted to be like Coach Green.
Yeah.
So,
just not nearly as loud, though.
Yeah. That was never in me. So I'm a little bit of an introvert. So,
yeah. And so you joined the Marines in about, would have been 94, 95?
Yeah, so I graduated Tech 93, got the call late in 93. I went to Officer Candidate School in January 1994. So, yeah.
And what was your degree in petroleum?
Environmental engineering.
Environmental. Because that was a big boom back in those days.
It was.
It was a big thing, and all of a sudden it kind of dried up after.
Yeah, it seemed to. I worked as an environmental engineer for 9 months. That was it. So,
as you say, you take that rock and put that rock over.
Yeah, I actually ended up working for the Marine subsidiary of Atlantic Richfield, so the subsidiary that ran the oil tankers.
Really?
So I did a little bit of work on helping them reduce their waste streams before I left the company.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's of course Montana Tech. It's such a you'd have been pretty well off getting a degree out of there. You didn't need to go to the military.
Absolutely. It was the number one small engineering school in the country when I went there. So, yeah, pretty incredible place.
Yeah, and I think it keeps just getting better.
It does.
So it's my daughter's going to UM, and I said, well, I need to just go to be an engineer. I don't want to be an engineer. So you might want to be once you graduate in something that's not engineering.
Yeah.
If I could go back and do it again, I'd probably be an engineer.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a plan. Like I said, life's what happens while you're busy making plans.
Isn't that something like that?
Yeah.
So did you like the military right away when you went?
I did. I found out that it was something that I was pretty good at, and it's something that really fulfilled me. I was looking for the opportunity. I joined the Marine Corps to because I felt a call to serve, and B, I wanted to see if I had what it took to be a Marine. And then once I got into the Marine Corps, I loved every aspect of it. The community that's built into it, the sense of purpose that comes with it, the opportunity to be challenged every single day. As an officer, you're a leader from the very beginning, so the opportunity to lead.
Yeah. Does boot camp change because you're an officer?
Yeah. Officers don't go to boot camp; they go to what's called Officer Candidate School. So it's boot camp for officers.
Yeah.
It's a lot of similar experiences that enlisted Marines will have at boot camp, and then there's a whole bunch of leadership stuff that's thrown in as well. So it's I think it was 16 weeks at the time that I went. You're living in a squad bay with 40 other people in your platoon in bunks. Getting screamed at a lot, doing a lot of physical activities, getting thrown a lot of tough challenges to figure out how to solve them. Spending a lot of time on the drill field marching. So I lost 15 pounds at Officer Candidate School. So
no kidding.
I did, yeah.
Well, you were, I think you were listed like 190, 185, 190 at high school.
Yeah.
So you must. How big were you by the time you got out of Tech as playing football?
215-ish, maybe. Yeah. So I see pictures of me on the day that I was commissioned, and I was looking pretty skinny. So,
So you dropped pretty.
Yep.
Yeah, boot camp's a good weight loss regimen for anybody, right? Boot camp, especially if it's a Marine boot camp. Which when I had Jim McBride on, you probably know Jim. Mm-hmm. That's how I got your information from his brother Sean.
Yeah.
But so I asked Jim if it was anything like Full Metal Jacket, and he goes, it was a lot like Full Metal Jacket.
I mean that movie, in many aspects was very true to life in terms of what boot camp.
And you saw that before you enlisted in the Marines.
Yeah.
And you still wanted to be a Marine after watching.
I did.
See, that solidified I didn't want to be in the National Guard because of Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, I did.
Because I don't know if I could I'd be more I'm more private pile material than Joker probably.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, it's an incredibly disorienting experience. And I had a company gunnery sergeant in my company at OCS, and for whatever reason, I got the sense he didn't like me because he was always screaming at me, always. So, but like I said, it instilled an incredible discipline in me that sticks with me today. Yeah,
so try to tell my son when his coaches are screaming at you, it's not because they don't like you.
Yeah, the crazy thing about boot camp is that you never forget your drill instructors. I mean, boot camp was 94. What was that? 40 years ago. 30 plus years ago. And to this day, I remember the names of my drill instructors: Staff Sergeant Lunas, Staff Sergeant Brown, and Sergeant Merkel. So,
Yeah, so they obviously they help shape your life.
They leave an impression.
Yeah.
For sure. So
yeah. Were any of them as dirty and funny as the guy on Full Metal Jacket?
No, they were all incredibly disciplined. I mean, the by then some things had happened in Marine boot camp where they really tightened the screws on the drill instructors, and they had they have a manual or a playbook that they got to play by, and they're watched every day to make sure that they're not drifting outside of the boundaries.
Yeah. Wait, did it get softer as your career went on? Did you see boot camp? Because I hear Robbie O'Neill will always talk about how they can't believe Bud's training isn't.
No, I think it got better.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps, I can't remember at what point, but they made a pretty significant transformation of boot camp, and they pulled in something at the end that was really designed to bring the Marines culturally together in the Marine Corps. And I think it got better.
Yeah,
I think it got better.
I hear people talking like that. Well, Rob will talk with some of his fellow Navy SEALs about how it's not as tough as these days. And it always reminds me of Coach Green when some of the old players would come around. They talk about, "Oh, you're softer. You used to make us run more." And he goes, "I did not."
All I know is the Marines got better. When I was a more senior officer, working with junior officers and looking at them, I wondered if I could have competed with them. I mean, they were that good. So clearly they were doing something right. So.
Yeah. Now, how were the Ordigger teams that you were on? You were on some pretty decent teams.
I didn't play along for Coach Green. I never started. I got hurt in a special teams play my second year playing for him, blew my knee, and I hung it up after that. Really good teams. I was an outside linebacker, and just remember the stack ahead of me, just incredible athletes.
Yeah.
Eric Jacobson was a quarterback.
I was going to say Jake must have been there back then.
Yeah. So I had a very short college football career.
Yeah.
So.
You ever run into Jake at all?
I haven't. I spoke to him probably 10 years ago. Haven't since. We share a mentor, a gal by the name of Sandy Stash. Hired both Eric and I as interns. So I kind of keep track of Eric through her. She's on my board of directors. So
is she? Yeah. Is she still around the area?
Yeah, she lives in Whitefish now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric was the guy who kind of put his finger in the well when the leak in the Gulf.
Yep.
Saved the Gulf of Mexico there.
Yeah.
Coach Green bragged a lot about that.
I'm sure. Eric was an incredibly talented guy. Still is.
Such a good guy.
A good guy.
He had his son played basketball for Tech.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a few years ago. Yeah. It was. I got to know him pretty well because Matt Vincent. I used to run with Matt pretty hard. And Matt was was pretty much the Cato Kalin for Jacobson for a while there. Matt was living at his house. I don't know how much rent Jake was charging him, but because Jake was never there. He was gone for like a month at a time. Always. So yes, that's how I got to know Jake, and just one of my favorite people ever.
Yeah, I just remember how talented he was. Super smart too.
Yeah. So when you go to the Marines, so you're going there '94. It's relatively peacetime. It wasn't stable time by any stretch of imagination following the first Gulf War. No. There was always a possibility of going in, but of course, and then 7 years later, everything changed quite drastically.
Incredibly, absolutely.
Yeah, where were you during the September 11 attacks?
Yeah, so when I heard about it, I was driving on College Boulevard in Oceanside, California, on my way into base at Camp Pendleton. Yeah. So I just got to Pendleton in July of that year. Had moved from Virginia Beach, where I was assigned as an instructor. Newly married for a couple months when 9/11 happened. So and it changed our lives irrevocably, for sure. Yeah. So
you got married. So you didn't marry a Butte girl then?
I did, and I married an Ohio girl. Yeah. Met her in Virginia Beach. She was working in Washington D.C. Was happened to go to college with a guy that I worked with in Virginia Beach, and he's the one that introduced us. So. Yeah, we got married in May of 2001. And I remember on the drive across the country to California, she asked me if I'd ever be deployed, and I remember telling her that I was going to 1st Reconnaissance Battalion, which was an independent battalion that was only deploying platoons at the time, and I was too senior to be in a platoon. So I remember telling her, probably not, only if the entire division gets deployed. And then 9/11 happened, and essentially the entire Marine Corps got deployed. Yeah. So
then you spent a lot of time overseas after that, I imagine.
Yeah, I spent the rest of, up until my last deployment was in 2012. So, essentially 11 years back to back.
Just deployment. Leaving.
Yeah.
That had to be tough because how many kids did you guys have?
2. We didn't have any kids when I deployed first to Iraq during the invasion of Iraq. And then we got pregnant between that and our next deployment. So my wife, Mary Ann, was 9 months pregnant when I deployed the second time to Iraq. So
that had to be awful tough.
Yeah, but I tell everyone I married the perfect Marine wife. I mean, she's strong and self-reliant, and she loved the lifestyle. She loved the Marine Corps, and she was all in. So, her mom came out to help her through the delivery and all that. But she's the one that kept the home fire burning the whole career.
Yeah.
So
because you hear a lot of terrible stories.
Yeah.
About that, especially about Iraq. The guys that came back.
Yeah.
And their wives were gone.
Yeah, and I had a different experience than a lot of enlisted Marines. I mean, I deployed to combat 4 times, twice to Iraq, twice to Afghanistan. I worked with senior enlisted Marines at MARSOC that were on their 18th combat deployment.
Yeah.
They deployed at a much greater frequency than I did. The way the Marine Corps works is you do about 3 years to 4 years in a job, and then you move. So I was in deployable units for about 3 years at a pop, and then I would go to a non-deployable job. Yeah. So more time at home, things like that. But it still wasn't easy. Yeah. Like I said, I met my oldest son when he was 6 months old. So and then they both kids were young when I deployed to Afghanistan. So I covered the state basketball tournament in 2004. My daughter was like 6 months old, and it killed me to be gone for 3 days. Yeah. So just to be away from your kids like that. Yeah, I think that the thing that offsets that is the mission and the sense of purpose that you have.
I mean, you're just so focused.
Yeah, and you know what you're doing is important. Yeah. And like I said, I married the best Marine spouse out there. I mean, that relationship's got to work. And it worked for us. So that made it much easier.
Yeah. What were your jobs then as a Marine?
Yeah, I had a ton. So I started out as a sniper platoon commander, deployed. This was prior to 9/11. Deployed on what was the Marine Expeditionary Unit. So during that time, the Marine Corps was sending out Marine Expeditionary Units on naval shipping to all over the world. So we'd deploy for 6 months on naval shipping, go to the Middle East. We'd train with partners. We'd go to Liberty ports. I did that for 2 deployments. My first tour in 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. Then from there, I went to be an instructor at a formal school. Went back to 1st Marine Division to be a company commander at 1st Reconnaissance Battalion, and that's when 9/11 happened. So I was the commander of Company C, 1st Reconnaissance Battalion during the invasion of Iraq. Went back the following deployment as that battalion's operations officer. From there, I went to the Pentagon, did a tour at Headquarters Marine Corps as a staff officer there, then went to school at the Navy War College for a year. A great opportunity to earn a master's degree. From there, I went back to 1st Marine Division, first working at the division staff as the chief of intelligence for Task Force Leatherneck during our deployment to Afghanistan. Then was selected to command 1st Reconnaissance Battalion. Went back again to Afghanistan, commanding 1st Recon, and then wrapped up my career with a joint staff tour in Okinawa, Japan, with 3rd Marine Division, and then I was assigned to command the Raider Training Center at Marine Corps Special Operations Command. So
you've been around.
I did, and then finished my time as the chief of staff of MARSOC. So, yep.
That's quite the career.
Yeah, so 15 jobs over the course of my career.
Really?
Yeah.
What was, when you go to Iraq, was it this, I mean, I'd imagine it was scary. The war, that was the war that was on TV. I would be sitting there watching CNN, and there you see the U.S. troops there. Yep. You see see the targets they're shooting at, and they're blowing up stuff. It was it was scary sitting there watching that on TV. Of course, you're a Marine, though. You're probably not.
I mean, you're trained for it. Fear is not something that's absent. It's absolutely there. But Marines are trained to work through that fear and do what the mission requires and take care of the Marines on your left and your right. And I'll be honest, I was probably at my best when I was a company commander in Iraq. I mean, I was married, yes, but I knew that my wife, Mary Ann, would be okay no matter what. I didn't have any kids. So, I was probably more fearless as a company commander at any point in my career. After I had children, it got harder. It made me think more. I still did my duty, but it made me think more about the consequences. So, but that's what Marine Corps boot camp's all about. That's what every bit of training that you do in the Marine Corps is all about, to ensure that you can execute the mission. So it doesn't mean that you're not afraid. There are many times that I was afraid in combat. Yeah. So,
I imagine that's the thing. I don't think anybody's fearless.
Yeah, no.
I mean, how could you be?
Without fear, there is no courage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you're not fearless, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what courage is standing up to fear.
Yeah, courage is the ability to do what it needs to do, what you need to do, even though you're afraid to do it. So
yeah. Was your dad a military guy?
He wasn't. No, my dad grew up on a ranch in the Ruby Valley, Montana, and he had a couple physical defects at birth. So he had his right arm was a little bit short. He was missing a thumb on his right hand, so he couldn't serve. So no, there wasn't really a history of service that drove me. I had a couple great uncles that fought in World War II. I didn't really know them. And then I had an uncle that served briefly in the Army. That was about it.
Yeah.
So
because I had my grandpa was in the Navy in World War II. I had a lot of his.
Yeah.
None of the real war stories, except for later he kind of told me about when they had kamikazes would fly at their carrier. But most of it was just about the mundane things that they did getting through the days, And my dad volunteered for the draft in '67, ended up going to Korea.
Oh wow!
But and he always told me, I don't want you in the military, because it wasn't a great experience living in a Quonset hut in Korea for 2 years. Of course, he's in the Army. He was an enlisted man.
Yeah, that was a tough time to be in the service too.
Yeah, and then he came out and people hated him.
And the military was dealing with a lot of challenges. Drug use was rampant across the military. A lot of all of the social things that were going on in America really affected the military as well.
Yeah.
It's a different place after that and today. I never pushed my kids to join. I made sure that they were aware of what their opportunities were. Yeah. I brought my older son to the Naval Academy for a couple wrestling camps, things like that, just so he knew what was available. But he lived through all the deployments and quickly realized that wasn't the life he was looking for. So and then the older one, he had some proclivity to serve, but he's got a very mild case of epilepsy, so he's not eligible. So
yeah. When you say the times are different with the military, you think because my dad they'd fly with their civilian clothes, go to the airport so people wouldn't know they're military. Now you see where their military guys are getting applause at the airport.
Yeah, they're not Marines though, because Marines, you have to travel in your dress uniform if you're going to travel, and nobody wants to wear that traveling. So you can't wear utilities in the Marine Corps outside of base. So
did you like the dress?
The uniforms are a huge part of the mystique of the Marine Corps.
It's like an unmistakable. The Marine uniform's unmistakable.
Absolutely,
the blues.
Absolutely, and not have to think about what you're going to wear every day is a good thing too. So.
Yeah, the cool thing I like about the Marines too is I used to hang out at Maloney's a lot for it with drinking, and it was 1 week at nighttime bartender was Charlie Nutter, former Marine, and I shouldn't say former Marine, a Marine, because you're never
no such thing as a former Marine.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it. Because the other one was Coxie, John Cox, would be working that, and they'd flip day and night, and so you always had a Marine there, and then you go in there in November, and Coach Green to come in, they'd say happy birthday.
It's the 250th birthday this year.
Yeah,
so it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah,
it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, so I just love that. You're never you don't hear someone say when they're in the Army you're not a former soldier, you're still a soldier, but with Marine it's just there's just something about it that's lifelong.
Yeah, it is, and the Marine Corps has always been like that. I mean, they've never pursued a recruiting campaign that was based on what the recruits can get out. It was all about the challenge of becoming a Marine.
A few of the best Marines.
Yep. So and that continues today. So
was it? They weren't advertising pay for your.
We don't promise you a rose garden. I remember that on a recruiting poster. So
Did you think about other branches, or was Marines just something?
It was the Marines from the beginning.
Just for studying and reading and all.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I read a lot of books about Marine recon in Vietnam. I wanted to be a reconnaissance Marine, and that's really what pushed me to the Marine Corps. So
and the Vietnam, I just think some of the stuff that those guys did, like what Coach Green did.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. I got another member on my board who was a Vietnam Marine. He was a radio operator, and on a patrol with an infantry battalion, was shot 7 times on a patrol. Medically retired as a result of that, and he's 78 years old, and he's Marine through and through. So.
And your board, you talk about that. That's you're the CEO of what's the name of the
Warriors in Quiet Waters Foundation.
Yeah, Warriors in Quiet Waters, which is a great. It helps. Former military guys out of the military kind of do things to help them adjust to life back out of the military. Kind of is that
more than that? I mean, our mission is to empower post 9/11 combat veterans to thrive and live purpose-driven lives. Yeah. So, it goes beyond helping post 9/11 combat veterans heal from
Yeah.
their war experiences to thriving after military service, which we hold a conviction that's absolutely essential for America. I mean, the fact is, thriving veterans, when they return to their families, those families get stronger. When they return to their communities are better because of them. You've talked about some of that here.
Yeah.
Thriving veterans make America stronger, and that's what we're pursuing to do.
Yeah.
So,
How did you get involved in that?
I'll try to make a long story short. I mentioned I got assigned to the Pentagon on the Joint Staff when I was a lieutenant colonel. Thought I was reporting to what was it was the J3, the operations director. It turns out that when I got there, they told me I wasn't going there. I was going to a place called the Chairman's Office for Reintegration. Yeah. Had no idea what that was, but it was an office that Admiral Mullen, when he was the chairman, created within his office of the chairman to lead the military services efforts to create effective reintegration pathways for veterans. So I ended up doing that work in that office for 3 years and fell in love with two things. I fell in love with the idea of mission-driven work after the military nonprofit work. Yeah. And I fell in love with serving veterans. Fast forward to 2019, I was the chief of staff at Marine Special Operations Command, and my cousin Boone in Bozeman told me that this organization, Warriors in Quiet Waters, was looking for a new CEO at the time. Yeah. It was a nonprofit serving veterans in my home state, in the city my mom lived in. I mean, it was exactly what I was looking for. So I threw my name in the hat, went through a pretty rigorous interview process, and was lucky enough to be the individual that they picked to lead the organization. So immediately retired from the Marine Corps, took about 4 months to get out and get back here, and started with them in July of 2020. Really? So, yeah.
It seems like it has to be just very rewarding work. Probably challenging in a lot of ways, too.
It is. I mean, I tell everyone it gives me purpose. When you love what you do, it's not work at all. Yeah. And that's kind of the situation that I'm in. So, really? Yeah.
Yeah, because, when these guys get out of the military, when you've seen combat, that's rough. I talk about, I had a guy on last week who wrote a book, an Air Force guy. He'd never been in Montana, let alone Butte, but I had a Butte guy, just to talk about his book. And I mentioned that guy in Anaconda, the shooter, the alleged shooter of Anaconda. I mean, that guy was a guy who, a lot of his troubles came probably because he never dealt with life after being in the military. I mean, obviously there was more than that, but he didn't, I don't know if he sought the help that he needed, or he wouldn't seek the help, but I mean, I think that probably compounded other issues, obviously, but these guys, not that every military guy does that, but the suicide rate was high.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's that black and white. That's something that I look at all the time. Whenever a veteran is involved in something bad, the first assumption,
they want to blame it on
the first assumption is made that it's post-traumatic stress. I hold a conviction that human beings are much more resilient than that. And, we don't just try to help veterans move beyond their trauma in non-clinical ways. We help them recognize that they still have a lot more to give, after the time they've hung up the uniform. But the fact is that every combat veteran coming out of the military does have some things to deal with. They have, experiences that they experienced in combat. And for every individual, they're different. And the associated challenges that can come with that. Every single one of them also experience an incredible sense of loss over three things. They lose their sense of purpose, they lose their identity, and they lose the community that they've grown up in. Tribe is what I call it. And we know from decades of research on human well-being that those are three critical domains of life that you need to be strong in order to thrive. So that's what our program's all about. It's helping them rebuild, strengthen these pillars of human well-being, from figuring out what their new identity is and being strong in that identity, understanding what their core values are, because your core values form who you are. They form the actions that you take, the decisions that you make, helping them understand the importance of replacing that tribe that they had when they lost, and they lost when they left the military. That's a really unique one. We know from a 80-year-old longitudinal study conducted by Harvard University called the Harvard Study of Adult Development that found that the number one driver of longevity and thriving in life is the quality and the strength of your relationships. Yeah. It's more important than heart health, more important than what you eat, more important than exercise, and It's the quality and the strengths of your relationships. So helping veterans rebuild that tribe is a huge part of our program. And then ultimately helping them recognize how they can actualize their full potential as veterans. And then ultimately, what does a life of purpose look like for them? Purpose is that thing that keeps you straight and narrow throughout your life. And it's going to change over time. But we put them through a process to help them craft their purpose. And we're seeing great results from the program. We work with a third-party evaluator out of Syracuse University called the Institute for Veterans and Military Families that collects data on all of our participants going through our program 4 times. They collect it before the program to establish a baseline, 3 times during the program, and then annually thereafter. And they do all the analysis against it and report the outcomes that we're getting. And what we're seeing is that our program, the Built for More program, is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Veterans are coming out of our program with their sense of thriving going into the program is below the national American population average. After the program, it's above it. Their sense of purpose is being doubled. Their sense of community is increased tenfold. They're sleeping 4 times better than they were before. Wow. The stress and anxiety that they dealt with every day was gone. They're truly thriving coming out of our program, and we got the data to prove it. So
that's great. So did they come to you? Are these people who are struggling and come to you, or are they people who are sent to you?
No, everyone has to apply.
Yeah.
So they go through a very rigorous application process. I ran assessment and selection at MARSOC, so I brought a lot of my lessons learned into how we select veterans for our program. They have to go through a very rigorous application and selection process so that we can identify 2 things. Number one, do they have a high need for the program? Something that's keeping them stuck, isolated, challenged, and are they a good fit? Are they willing to do the hard work in the program to achieve the growth that they need to achieve? So everybody, the vast majority of our participants come to us through word of mouth. The rest of us find us on the internet pretty much and apply to the program. So that's how we get them. Our challenge is that we have about 3 times as many veterans applying to our program as we currently have the capacity to serve. So we're working on that.
Yeah. So how does the program work? How long are they in the program?
It's a 9-month-long program. Yeah. It involves immersions here in Montana at the beginning for what we call the initial experience, and at the end for their capstone experience. They go through as a cohort. So they go through with an individual will go through with 7 other veterans in their cohort. That cohort stays together over that 9-month period, but they do a week here first in Montana. Then they go home and the program's delivered remotely to them for about 9 months. And then they come back to Montana for their capstone experience, which completes the program. So, and it's, the program's anchored in nature. We pursue the transformation that we're pursuing in these veterans through immersive activities in nature. 3 things: fly fishing, archery hunting, or photography. I call those 3 activities co-facilitators in our program, because they essentially, what doing those activities in nature does is it sets the emotional and psychological conditions in the veterans themselves to be ready to take on the hard change that happens in the rest of the program. Yeah. Being a Montanan, outdoorsman my whole life, I always recognized what spending time in nature did for me. It was my place. It was where I found grounding. It's where I was able to, go when I was stressed. It was where I was able to go when I needed to figure things out. And I recognized what it did for me, but I didn't really understand the science behind it till I got here at Warriors in Quiet Waters and really started digging into the research. And the fact is that nature does a lot of great things for human beings, which we can talk about if we got time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going for a walk.
Yeah.
I walk my dogs at night around the Big M. I put a headlamp on.
Yeah.
I have a dog who likes to fight other dogs that are on leashes.
I got one of them too.
Yeah. So we go at night when there's no one up there, but just walking, looking at the stars.
Yeah.
It makes a bad day easier. Until the dog rolls and shit when we have sometimes we have those.
Yep.
We've got to go home and clean it, but for the moment, just being out any kind of nature is just a great thing.
Yeah, physiological improvements and cognitive improvements. So just spending time in nature does a couple things. Number one, your serotonin levels start coming down, so your stress and anxiety is going away. Your dopamine levels are going up, so your positive affect, your outlook at the world improves. It even improves the production of what are called killer cells in your body. Just spending time in nature helps your immune system. A study conducted by the University of Utah looked at the effects of spending time in true backcountry nature. And what they found was that the brainwave activity of studying participants actually changed over 3 days as they were immersed in a backcountry environment, where at the beginning of the study, when they first went into the backcountry on day one, their brains were emitting what are called beta waves. And these are the waves that are associated when you're hyper focused on something, trying to solve a math problem, something like that. By the third day in the backcountry, that brainwave activity had transitioned from beta waves to what are called theta and alpha waves, which are most closely associated with people that are in a state of flow or long-time meditators. So it actually changes our brainwave activity. When you add in an immersive activity in nature on top of that, like fly fishing, like archery, like photography, you get some additional benefits. It's a lightly focused activity, which allows your mind to wander. And what happens when your mind is wandering is what's called your default mode network in your brain, which are the parts of your brain that are most active when you're lightly focused, are hyperactive.
Yeah.
And have you ever had an epiphany in the shower?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they call it the shower effect. What that does is it allows your default mode network to be working on these challenges that you've been thinking about consciously in an unconscious way. It makes you more creative. It makes you better problem solvers. And when you think about doing those things for people, specifically veterans who are grappling with the challenges of combat and transitioning into civilian society, you can see how it would help them psychologically and emotionally to do the hard work they need to do to grow. And that's what our program's all about.
Yeah. Are they mostly guys who, short-term guys, like, 4 or 6 year guys?
They're guys and gals.
I should say.
They're guys and gals.
Because women can serve in the military too. Here
they're guys and gals, and it varies widely.
Yeah.
Some of our participants serve 4 years, some served an entire career.
Really?
So, yep.
So you even get some of the older guys who did 25 years.
Yeah, the average age in our program, I think, is 43 years old. So for many, they transitioned out of the service, years ago, and they're still challenged. The sad fact is that the suicide rate for veterans is 1.5 times that of the general population. It's a number 2 leading cause of death for veterans. For our youngest cohort of veterans between 18 and 34, the rate's doubled. But that's not all trauma. In many cases, I am convinced that, veterans are struggling with this despair because of a loss of purpose in life. How are they going to make their future as important as their past?
Yeah.
How do they feel like they're continuing to contribute in a society where it's really hard to do that? Then you add on top of that the way that our wars ended, and it makes it even harder.
Yeah.
You look at how we pulled out of Afghanistan. I'll tell you, every veteran that
I don't know one that's happy about it.
It goes more than being happy about it.
Yeah.
I can't tell you a single veteran that I know that fought in Afghanistan that has not wondered personally what they did it for.
Yeah.
And then pile on top of that all the other challenges that we're dealing with in our country today, and it makes you wonder, was it worth it? For me, and I won't speak for any veterans, I tell you it was. Because I know that the good that I did and my unit did in the area that we were operating in both Iraq and Afghanistan, I will tell you that we accomplished every mission that we were assigned. And I'll tell you that we held the terrorists at bay for over 20 years, where they never came back and did it again.
Yeah.
And that's where I find my purpose out of my service. So.
Yeah, knock on wood, but we haven't had.
Yeah.
We've had domestic terrorist attacks, but not.
That's what we did, and that's where I advise all veterans to focus their purpose. Most veterans can't take credit for the strategic decisions that were made. That was the realm of politicians and 4-stars, not the realm that I operated in. So I focus on what I did, what my unit did, what my comrades did, and I'm very proud of my service because of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and of course, you're only doing. Yeah, they're doing what they're told. Yeah. They're putting their life on the line. Yeah. For their country. No matter what the decision, who's making the decision, who's in the White House, who's got the stripes or the stars. Yeah.
But all that stuff comes together, and that's the challenge that we're dealing with at Warriors in Quiet Waters, to help veterans thrive after.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and those are tough wars too, because Vietnam obviously was a really tough war. All of them, but this is so much of it's in the streets. Yeah. It's not like we're not like being in the jungle's any easier, but you're seeing more civilian stuff, and it seems like it would be really hard.
Yeah, I mean, there was urban combat in Vietnam as well, but it wasn't to the extent that we saw in post 9/11 era. And then the other challenge is that it lasted for 25 years.
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, senior enlisted Marines I served with at MARSOC were on their 18th combat deployment. Imagine what that does. And they're still getting ready to go overseas. And in order to get ready to go to deploy, you got to kind of take all that stuff that you've collected over those 18 deployments and put it on a shelf, so that you're ready to go. But the fact is when it comes time for those service members to leave the service, they're going to have to take that box off the shelf and deal with what's inside of it.
Yeah.
And that's where our organization comes in, and organizations like us.
Yeah.
So.
And you got your post 9/11 veterans.
Yep.
And the post 9/11 veterans, even that's why I said even the National Guard guys knew when they signed up for the National Guard, they were signing up for a year in Iraq.
Absolutely.
This
time and time again.
And it's all volunteer.
Yep.
I have so much, regard for the men and women who signed up for the military after that, knowing you're going to war.
Yeah.
Not that you scoff at someone who signed up for the military in 1993.
Yeah.
Because you're still.
It's a different thing, though.
But you knew. I mean, you didn't know for sure you were going into war.
No. After 9/11, you knew for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's just they're heroes. No matter what way you look at it, I kind of see it.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know where that courage came from. Of course, I was never a military guy. I think I was 27 when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just about too old for the military. I don't know what the military maximum age is.
34, I think.
Also, I wasn't even close then. I was going off Al Franken's bit when he was when he turned 28 and he couldn't be drafted. He said so. Now he changes to it in the draft. Things people should serve for their country.
I think you can volunteer up until 34, and then you need a waiver. So,
yeah. But by the time I was 34, I was not military shape anyway. My knees were shot from running. My hips were hurting.
Yeah. I mean, definitely 24 is a rough time. We have a member of our board. His name's Mike McLeod. He started out as a contract photographer for our organization. He takes all the incredible photos that we capture. Well, Mike was a biologist working here in Montana on 9/11, and at 40 years old, he volunteered to join the Army. He was able to get a waiver because of 9/11. So he was a 40-year-old private.
Wow.
Served in the airborne, did a couple deployments overseas in the airborne as a combat photographer. So, during war, those standards get relaxed a little bit. So
yeah.
Well,
it's amazing that he did that.
Yeah, incredible service, no doubt. So
because we needed that. I mean, obviously we need the service. Otherwise, if you don't have the volunteers, then there's a draft.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's another purpose for our organization. We believe that the next generation comes up needs exemplars. They need, because ours is an all volunteer force, and unless the next generation comes up, raises their hand, and swears an oath to the Constitution, we're in trouble. We need that next generation of warriors coming up. Well, they need exemplars to look at.
Yeah.
They need post 9/11 combat veterans that, like Coach Green inspired me, inspires them to serve.
Yeah.
And, we believe that every veteran has the potential to do that. We just empower them to find their way and being that exemplar, continuing to serve in their community, continuing to be strong and actualizing their potential as veterans. That's what we exist for.
Yeah.
So.
And now it's got to feel good, though, because you have to have, I mean, every story is probably not a success story, but I'm sure you get more than your share of success stories that because you
the vast majority are success stories.
Are they really most
absolutely,
of them? Huh?
Absolutely. So, and it does. I mean, like I said, the things that keep me coming back every day, number one, the team that I have. I lead an incredible team of individuals that are committed, care deeply about post 9/11 combat veterans and believe in our mission. And number one. Number two, it fills me with purpose. I get to see the effects of my work every single day and the outcomes that we achieve for our veterans. And, every time we get a testimonial letter from a participant telling us how their program changed their lives, or a participant reaches out thanking us for how their life is going so much better, that gives me everything that I need to get up and work as hard as I do for this organization. So it's mission-driven work, and I knew I needed that when I left the military.
Yeah,
so
it gave you your purpose.
It does. It fills me with purpose.
Yeah,
absolutely does.
So you didn't have to struggle for that, and that made it easier for you to retire.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I'm I'm a little bit of a unicorn when it comes to my transition, because I transitioned out of the Marine Corps where I had this incredible sense of duty and mission and incredible tribe, and straight into a job that provided me those same things.
Yeah.
The vast majority of veterans don't find that. It's very hard in the civilian world to find a great sense of purpose in the work that you do. And that's part of our program, is that you don't have to derive your purpose solely from the way that you earn money. There are lots of other ways that you can still live a purpose-driven life, even if you don't find that from the thing that gives you the ability to be financially stable. So,
yeah, that's great. And then you live in Bozeman.
Yep, I live in Bozeman.
Your mom's in Bozeman. Does your wife like Bozeman?
We do. We enjoy Bozeman. I mean, Butte's the greatest city in Montana. There's no doubt about that. Growing up here,
it's different than anywhere else.
It is, and it's what made me who I am. I'm incredibly, grateful for growing up here in Butte. But as we were talking about a little bit before we hit record, I lived all over the country. Spent a lot of time in Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., Southern California, these big urban areas. So Bozeman's changed a lot over time. And I'll hear the natives talking about how bad traffic is on 19th. And I just tell them, it's all relative. If you want to see traffic, go to Northern Virginia. In Bozeman, I got a 10-minute commute to work. I can be at a trailhead in 15 minutes. I'm sharing it with a lot of other people, but I'm still getting outside. So, and it's got the culture and those types of things that my wife really likes and enjoys.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it really is a great city. There's so much to do over there.
Yeah. I don't have a license plate with 6 on it though.
Don't you?
No.
Yeah.
I have military plates on my plate. So
you did go
I don't have to explain to people that I live in Bozeman, but I'm from Butte. So
yeah. Well, years ago when we were writing Rat Chat, Matt Vincent and I, we were writing it at Maloney's, and we ran into the great philosopher Mike Roach, who called it Bozangeli.
Yeah, I still hear that a lot.
Yeah, and we called it that, and there's so many people were mad about it.
Really?
And now it's like an endearing. They like it.
Yeah.
It's like it's a fun nickname for them over there now. At first they didn't like it.
Yeah, you just gotta have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Don't be so serious.
Yeah, but it seems like it is. It's not. I don't know how many native people there though. You watch the news, they'll do a story and somebody say so and so's lived in Bozeman for 6 years.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a long time, But it is it's a beautiful place.
But I understand it. I mean, the Montana I came back to wasn't the Montana I left in 1994 by any means. And you always wish for the past and the way things were, but the fact is that change is going to happen, and we're not going to get in front of it. My only ask is that when people move to Montana, they don't try to turn it into where they came from.
Yeah,
so
just let it be Montana.
Yeah, let's let it be Montana.
Yeah.
So.
Did you get back to when you were in the military? Did you get back to Butte in Montana much?
One time a year, if I was lucky, a couple times a year. And I'm a big hunter, so I was usually coming home during hunting season. So right around Thanksgiving, I'd spend Thanksgiving here and spend a lot of time hunting with my dad. But I started bringing my wife Marianne here as soon as we were married, and she fell in love with the state. It's her home now. She's a Montanan through and through. So yeah. You
got to cheer for Ohio State though on Saturdays.
I am an adopted Ohio State fan. Absolutely. Her father is about as diehard as they come. So
they look good.
Yeah, they do. They do.
I want the Bears to draft all their defense next year, and I think that defense is so good.
Yeah, the Ohio State Buckeyes are not bad to watch.
So you grew out at Terra Verde. So did you just go south to the Highlands when you were out hunting?
No, my dad, like I said, my dad grew up in the Ruby, so I spent most of my time hunting in the Gravelies growing up.
Did you do bow hunting too, or?
Yeah, I started bow hunting in college, then put it down the whole time I was in the Marine Corps because my dad wasn't a bow hunter, and I only came home to hunt with my dad. So I hunted rifle the entire time I was in the Marine Corps, and then when my dad died in 2015, I bought a bow and started archery hunting again. So archery is my main thing now. It's super tough. I only hunt public land. It's a hard thing to do, but I love it. So.
Yeah. Is it harder and harder to hunt now with less and less land? Or is it still pretty decent, you think?
It's harder to hunt mostly because of the number of hunters that are in the field these days. Yeah. I mean, the fact is that YouTube and Onyx have changed the face of public land hunting. There's just a lot more hunters out there, and there's no more secrets. I mean, I was hunting in a basin south of Dillon, about as far as you can get from anywhere, just during the opening week this week, and ran into a couple guys from Minnesota there. I mean, I mean, there's no secret spots anymore. So, and the elk are educated because there's so many hunters in the field. They don't come to calls like they used to. Last weekend I was in that same basin, and Didn't hear any bugles the first day at all, and then right about 10 minutes before it was pitch black, the elk started bugling. They bugled all night, and then they stopped as soon as there was light on the horizon. So they're educated.
Yeah.
So
you can't bugle them in as
at least where I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't speak for all hunters. I know a lot of hunters that are super successful on public land. I'm just don't happen to be one of them. So yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's just being out and doing it, right?
That's why I do it. I archery elk hunt because it gets me in the backcountry. I go to places that I'd never otherwise go. I mean, I'd have never seen this basin in my life if I wasn't an archery elk hunter. So
you get out. Do things, and it's a better time of year to be out there too.
It is. It's warmer. I mean, I'm a rifle hunter too. I'll hunt through the rifle season, but it's definitely warmer. You actually get a lot more opportunities to observe and actually interact with elk, I think, during archery, just because of the nature of the rut and things that are going on. And I also believe that doing hard things is something everybody should do all the time. And the challenge of going 8 miles into the backcountry with a pretty heavy pack. I'm 55 now, so it's not getting easier. But that fills me up as well as, preparing to do that year round keeps me in shape, keeps my mind sharp, makes sure that I'm squared away at all the other aspects of my life so that I can give the time that I want to archery hunting.
Yeah.
So
it looks like you're in pretty good shape. You said your shoulders aren't good.
Yeah, I mean, most of the joints in my body have been impacted by 27 years in the Marine Corps. So, I mean, I'm getting a shoulder replacement on my right shoulder in January. I got no cartilage in my right knee, same in my right ankle. It's just service in the Corps for 27 years will wear on you. So, So,
27 years. That's pretty. That's a great career.
Flew by. Did
it really?
It did. Went by in a blink of an eye, and I'd go back and do it in a heartbeat if I could.
Really?
So,
You don't
just do it better. I just like the opportunity to do it better. So knowing what I know now.
That's great. And I love that Coach Green was a big influence on you.
And I tell him that every time I see him. And he's a little nervous. He told me I had a beer with Coach at the VU about a month ago, and both him and Sean McBride, who you mentioned earlier, we were both inspired by Coach Green to serve. Both ended up as colonels in the Marine Corps. And when I was telling, I remind Coach Green of that every time I see him, and he tells me I was really nervous during the war because of you and Sean, and you've told me time and time again that I'm the reason you're a Marine, and I was just worried about the consequences of that. So,
that's a burden for him.
It was a burden he didn't need to take by any means. So
but I don't think there's a better person on the whole planet than Coach Green.
I agree.
I just love that guy.
He's a great American. I love the guy.
Yeah, he's just one of the best there is.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's great that you're doing this, though, to helping the
it's essential. It's essential. Like I said, thriving veterans make America stronger, and I think we all have an obligation to ensure that they get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So,
do you get to go to any digger games ever?
I haven't yet since I've been back. Mostly because
they're 5-0 for the first time ever.
I know. It's
hard to believe.
I don't go to games in Bozeman either because it's hunting season. So I missed 27 seasons, so I'm making up for a lot of lost time hunting in the hills. So
you didn't get to go hunting.
No, I did. I mean, I come back for a week, but
you didn't get it. Not like you did, though.
Not like I do it now. So I'm committed to that. That's the time of year where I really get back and find myself. And my wife will tell you I'm a much better human if I get the opportunity to do that. So that's where I really focus my time in the fall. So
did you go out by yourself?
Rarely now. Most of the places I hunt are grizz country, so I try not to go into grizz country alone. If I am hunting alone, I'll typically go somewhere where it's not a grizzly recovery area. I treat Montana as anything west of Billings, you're going to find a grizzly, but I go to those places when I'm alone where the likelihood of running into grizzlies is a lot smaller.
Because when you're out bow hunting, you're doing the exact opposite of what you're supposed to.
Doing everything you shouldn't do.
Because you're being quiet.
Yeah. Just yesterday, I was hunting with a buddy in the Madison, and we were moving through some pretty heavy timber, and we came up on a bear bed.
Yeah.
He wasn't out of the bed for long, so we turned around and left. So,
I don't want to mess with a bear.
No, I mean I love that they're on the landscape, but I don't need to see one while I'm hunting. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I want them to be out there.
Yeah,
but I just don't want to meet them.
I don't need to see one for sure.
Yeah, especially those grizzlies. It'd be cool to see when you're driving through Yellowstone or through your camera lens from a long ways away.
Yep.
Do you take pictures too, or
I do. I take like I said, going to the places I go is why I do it. So I try to capture the memories as much as I can. So for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I really appreciate your time and I appreciate your service. Obviously, thank you for your service. You know, that's people say that.
No, it was an honor to serve. I was meant to be a Marine.
But you guys did that for, for even the people who don't want to acknowledge that you did it for them. You did it for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got a lot out of it too. So, like I said, I was born to be a Marine. I'd go back and do it in a heartbeat. So, yeah. And I really appreciate you having me on tonight.
Yeah. Anything we got to say before I hit stop here?
Just thank you. And it's really great to finally meet you. I've known of you for decades.
Well, I remember your name from when you played football for Butte High.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you got a long memory.
Yeah.
I was an average athlete. So
I paid a lot of attention though back then.
You did. You did
So
for
even
sure.
I was still in '87. I was still in. What's that? Must have been in. I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
That year when you were playing it. But
Wow.
so I was, I went to the pep rally for Central and thought they were going to win, and everything.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, it's great to finally meet you.
Yeah, you too. And thanks a lot, and thanks for coming over.
And thanks for doing this podcast. Thank you.